This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, Show 8. Let's get things done.
Welcome to We the SEs Podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Majaba. Ramsey was the captain of his high school basketball team, but he never won a game.
Welcome back, world. Thank you for being here. In my defense, our team sucked. 4 out of the 5 starters, and we had 7 people on the team in total. So 6 out of the 7 players on the team graduated all in the same year. And we scrambled to find new team members to play basketball with me. So I was the only starter left and the only team member left. And in hindsight, it should not have been a surprise that people would graduate after the grade 12 in Lebanon. But I don't know, I guess we got caught with our pants down. Alright, so now that everybody knows about my failed basketball career, today's guest is Harshad Kolte. Harshad was a product manager at Spirent Communications, and he is currently a product marketing manager at Lenovo. He will explain better the differences and what he does and how he interacts with the sales team. Show notes can be found at www.wethesalesengineers.com/show8. So without further ado, here's Harshad. Hey Harshad, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good, Ramsey. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining me. Just so people know who you are, do you mind giving a brief overview of your career trajectory and where you are right now?
Okay. So I've been in the networking industry for 20 plus years. I started off my career as a software engineer with Eterna, now JDSU. We used to make protocol analyzers. I did ATM analyzers back then. After that, I joined Spirent in 2000. Started also on the then ATM project, worked on drivers, and worked my way up the stack. Worked on the protocols later on whether it was routing protocols and storage protocols. So I did that driver development for those, then protocol development. Eventually, I took technical leadership of fiber channel over Ethernet, and since that was successful, I moved on to engineering management. I was the engineering management manager for data center, and then eventually for our software infrastructure group. That's where I had the most interaction with Ramsey in the past as engineering manager. First for that, and after I did my MBA back in 2013, I switched to product management, and I took over product management role of the infrastructure there. So a lot of different roles. My last stint out of Spirent was as a product marketing manager for our Temiva or software as a service application. And that also helped me get my current position. So right now at Lenovo, I'm go-to-market. I'm doing pure product marketing for our Azure Stack offering for Lenovo. So the space is different. So I switched from software-defined networking to software-defined infrastructure, which is what I am. I'm responsible for all the go-to-market activities for our Azure Stack solution. So that's where I am today. It's been about 8 months since I joined Lenovo. I spent almost 18 at Spirent. It's a long time.
Yeah. I'm honestly surprised people stay that long, especially at Spirent. People have been there for a long time. They don't like leaving.
That's true.
Yeah. So you mentioned you did your MBA.
Yeah.
I did kind of an MBA light in Ottawa, which is engineering management at Ottawa University. And to be honest with you, I have not found it useful at all.
Okay.
So did your MBA helped you advance your career?
Absolutely. So my MBA was the reason for why I think I could make the switch out of engineering management. I think one of the biggest challenges for a technical person is when I'll say that this with a grain of salt, but even in my MBA school, people used to say, "Hey, oh, you are an engineer," and it was looked frowned upon. And so, making that move to the business side, the engineering almost gets in the way. But I think that's what the MBA actually helped me to overcome. The MBA gave me a stamp of approval, if you will. Of course, it also gave me a whole bunch of skills and which on the business side. So I did things, subjects which I would have never have done otherwise in a formal capacity. So I did microeconomics, macroeconomics, finance, which as a tech professional I had never really um, dealt with. So gave me exposure to a lot of that. Plus, the Duke program actually had concentration on leadership and career and advancement, which I really leveraged. One of the things that I leveraged out of that was when I was finishing my MBA, I had basically made a clear understanding with the then manager with Wes that after I finish my MBA, I want a career path. Otherwise, I'm out. So kind of that to actually give me the confidence to negotiate and get myself into the to rise up within the companies and was able to make that lateral move. And I think that's also one of the big reasons why Lenovo actually got me in, because they saw my technical experience, they saw my MBA, and they really needed somebody who could be the subject matter expert but still be exposed to the business skills. And I think the MBA stamp definitely helped. It actually a whole bunch of that was also networking. I was connected with two other product managers within Lenovo before I joined. Was talking to them, and that's how I even reached the position. So the MBA helped me in 2 3 different ways. For the initial switch, for the career contacts and the confidence really to say I can do this. So right now my job is nothing like what I was doing at Spirent. Spirent, I was doing so much. Even the product management role was very technical. Over here, I'm doing pure marketing. So, and the MBA actually helped me launch into that.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned Duke, so you did your MBA at the University of Duke, obviously, and from what you
Yes,
just said, you highly recommend it if someone's interested in doing an MBA.
yes, yes, definitely. And Duke was at the time that year we were ranked number one. So in the US. So the Duke Fuqua MBA program was ranked number one. So it actually helps.
Yeah, that I would say that would help. So and y- so you did PM at Spirent. Now you're doing pure marketing.
Yeah.
I thought part of the PM job is a bit of marketing. So what's the main differences between PM and marketing?
So I think once again the answer is kind of modeled. I'll tell you why. As I was doing my job search, I realized that as well, because I was looking for product management roles, and product manager, the PM role, is very different in different companies. I think so. The PM role in Spirent is actually a medley role. So the PM, and I is the they always say PM is the CEO of the product, and you'll hear that a lot when asked about the role, and which is true. The PM is end-to-end responsibility of the product to launch it. The requirements on all of that comes from the PM. But that is all the product strategy. How does the product actually need to? What does the product need to address? What is the unique value proposition that needs to be in the product, and then how do you get that to actually have engineering develop it all the way through concept, through duration of the life cycle of the product, and at the end of it. But that all that is correct, and that's the product strategy which the product manager is responsible for. In Spirent, the product manager also does product marketing. The product marketing piece of that is being responsible for the marketing strategy for it. And what's the difference? The difference is if it's the new product versus a legacy product. For a new product introduction is not very is a role in itself, and that's what I'm doing. I'm right now go to market, and as go to market for new product and go to market for the existing product. What's involved in going to the market is um, at the concept in the concept phase, actually helping the product manager to come up with the value prop. When the product manager is trying to identify the value prop, that needs to be built into the product. The product marketing manager is supposed to be doing the persona development, identifying the target segments with the product manager so that they can develop the persona, identify the pain points, and then help the product manager identify, okay, this is the value prop we are going to build into the product, and help actually develop that. That's part of it. The second one is the actual go to market strategy. Are you going to do direct sales? Are you going to do indirect sales? Are you going to be involved with business partners, or in the case of networking industry, system integrators, or are you going to work with just as an OEM? So all of that determining the channel is also what something that the product marketing manager does. And finally, the actual outbound side of things, right? So there is internal communications that may need to be done. In Spirent, we didn't do as much, but in Lenovo, internal comms is a big deal. In letting the everybody know about the product. So today in my current job, actually, one of the calls that I have a little later today is to get on our what we call the interlock calls. We have a marketing interlock call where we talk with the rest of the entire marketing organization in Lenovo and tell them that this product is coming. Then we have a separate one with the geographies, which is all of the sales reps. They get on a call and we tell the sales guys, hey, this product is coming. So internal comms, the product marketing manager is responsible for that. And there is one as a part of going to market, there is developing what's the marketing funnel, which is a huge part of my responsibility. Developing what the marketing funnel content needs to be across what is called the, you'll have heard this term too, the buyer's journey. When you want to get your product out for consideration, when you want to get them to actually get closer to a sales cycle, and all the way down to the marketing funnel, content like that, which is like white papers, thought leadership blogs, digital media, working with analysts, this is all in the earlier cycle of the marketing funnel, helps to generate marketing leads. Trade shows, right? Inspire and the PM did that. In Lenovo, the product marketing manager actually works with a dedicated events team and a dedicated outbound marketing team to do this type of events, whether it's the uh, trade shows themselves or talks. I do podcasts, so I did two podcasts with Intel. I did virtual webinars. So all of that, I have to work in conjunction with the product manager. Web page, product guides, developing them, solution briefs, data sheets, brochures, all of that. The product marketing manager is the point of contact to work with the rest of the marketing organization. In Spirent, I realized as soon as I moved to Lenovo, the PM was responsible for all of that, for the product strategy as well as the marketing strategy. So one or the other role usually suffers in that situation. And as PM and Spirent, I thought that's the thing that I was not able to do very well, is the marketing piece of it. I concentrated so much time on product strategy that I was not giving enough time to market development and to marketing activities. So PM and PMM is very different. In some companies, it's a dotted line role. So Inspirant was one type. In Lenovo, it's different. If you were a Cisco PM is also called CEO, but he works with product marketing, works with outbound marketing, works with sales. Uh, Kind of, not in quite a dotted line, but in that type of role. In other companies like mine in Lenovo, the product marketing guy is responsible for interacting with PM as well as with these different marketing arms. Sorry, long answer, but that's one of the big differences that I saw in my current role and my past role at Spirent.
No, that's good. I appreciate that. And things have changed at Spirent a little bit since you've left as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave it at that. 'Cause I don't think I'm supposed to be sharing internal information, but yeah, since you've left, things have changed. I do have a couple of questions. You mentioned that you
Sure.
do like internal calls to let the sales team know a product is coming.
Yes.
How far in advance before the launch of the product do you let the sales team know?
So there In Lenovo, at least, and I think that I realized after talking to some of my other peers, there are there are at least different tiers of launches. So we have at least four levels of tiers. So when we have a major release, it's called a tier one release. It's a major release. Intel changes processors, or you have a big revision of your hardware server. In Spirent, it would be the equivalent of a brand new product. So that's like a tier one launch. For a tier one launch, the expectations are different versus a tier three, which is I'm just making a minor enhancement or not that big a feature to an existing product. So there are tiered launches. So for a tier one launch, we actually the first interaction occurs 4 months ahead of schedule, 120 days, and for across the launches, whether it's tier one to tier three, 30 days before the launch of that, so before it becomes GA, 30 days before the launch is a minimum requirement across the tiers. So 30 days ahead of a launch, there will be training developed already by marketing, and all of the material, right? The data sheet update that we have to do, the web page update, brochures if there, that has to be done, and the actual training on the product, and which is in two different ways too. There is training for the general seller, and there is training for the technical seller. So like an SE. So for the general seller, there is a specific uh, set of training materials that we create. So whatever the tier, there will be a feature and benefits training. It will be small, but it will be there, which talks about the actual value prop of the new feature, how it plays with the strategy, and then how to position it. So there is a feature and a benefits training along with positioning, and then there is a technical training. So both of these have to be developed 30 days ahead of schedule. So as a PMM, I'm already working on content which I'm supposed to make available for general availability in September. I'm already developing the training material for it today. So in June, I will actually get my first draft out, and by August, I will actually have developed and scheduled training sessions with sales um, for that product, for that feature.
Do you focus at all at any training about what problems it would solve for customers and the types of discovery questions that the sales team should be asking?
Yes. So as a part of one of the deliverables is, and I just created one for my launch, is a conversation guide, and it has a bunch of things in it. So it's like 3 4 different things. The first one is an overview. Basically, it talks about this is the value prop and who are we targeting. So there's an overview. We have the value prop, the target segment, and the messaging that talks to that value prop. So that's one piece of the conversation guide. The second piece of the conversation guide is, conversation starters for sellers, which actually has, the personas on the left, kind of. So whether you're talking to a QA manager or a QA director, or are you talking to a C-level executive, or somebody, a higher level decision maker, for each of those personas, what is your conversation starter? How do you start? So if I was talking about, for example, if I was talking to a QA manager, then I would focus on, you're supposed to, do you have challenges testing new features? How do you do that today? And basically give them 3 4 questions, leading questions. Versus if I was talking to somebody who's a decision maker, then we would talk about, have you heard about Spirent's overall strategy on XYZ area? We have been in this industry for so long. What's your long term strategy? Where do you see the testing efforts for this? Are you invest? So there's conversation starter for different personas, and then we actually have developed something called objection handling ahead of time. So if you hear a customer say, "Oh, I already have, my competitor," how do you respond to that? For that, and in my case, I have at least three. I identify at least three competitors, and I develop a battle card against that competitive differences. positive as well as negative against those, and that's also in that conversation guide. So the 3-4 bit deliverables off, which is specifically targeted for sellers to arm them. um, I think in Spirent we used to call them something else. I forgot what it's called. uh, I forget what this Spirent terms, but here we develop a conversation guide. It's usually about 4 to 5 slides of with all of that content.
All right. Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, it's good to have a conversation guide. It's good to know where to go. It just takes thinking out of it. I think, in my personal opinion, every sales team should develop their own, because corporate wide, like, you may have an idea of what, in general, what people would need, but
Hmm.
every opportunity is different. Every customer is different. So based on their experience, every sales team should have their own, with the help of, obviously, you guys.
Yeah. So absolutely, I think it is a must, and I'm glad that in my current role I'm getting to do it in such a structured fashion. But it's eye opening in that way, and I think every company has it, but it's maybe not as formalized. So some of the good sales engineer, the good sales manager probably has them in their head, or they may have written it down in the form of slide that they build as part of their customer facing presentation. So they have a version of it in there. Um, but if it's formalized, it makes it actually much clearer. That we already are arming the sales guys. They don't have to think of think of them that separately, and it also helps deliver a consistent messaging. A seller in EMEA and a seller in AP may have different focus, but at least they have a starting point.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. That's exactly my point. In EMEA, even here in North America, one customer can be different than the other. What you guys
Yeah,
provide would be a great starting point, exactly, and then we take that and modify it, adapt it to what we believe our customer would benefit most of.
yeah,
So you work a lot with sales teams and SEs, and
yes.
you touched upon a little bit. A good SE would do this. What do you think are the qualities of a good SE?
So the good SE. So I think a good SE. So first of all, just to clarify, so the setup is similar, right? You have a sales manager or a sales
Yeah,
I guess it's a
an
sales
account.
sales rep,
Yeah, account
right?
manager and
Who
an
is
SE.
and an SE who goes along with them. Yeah. So the SE I think has to be a little more technical compared to what I usually call the general seller. The sales guy should be concentrating on the actual sale, about the PO, about the um, talking about the budget or upcoming budget, capex or opex, and how to split it and all of that. How to figure out the right the pricing negotiation. All of that should be done by the sales guy, so the general seller. But the SE should be more technical, should be more in lockstep with the customer, should be at the customer site, uh, actually seeing how the customer is doing their job using your product, using your tools. He should be able to understand exactly the motion that the customer is going through while using the product from start to finish, so that he can put himself in the customer's shoes. He should be able, as far from a PM standpoint, looking outward, he should be the proxy for the customer. He should be able to tell exactly this is what my customer is doing. These are the problems, and these are the eyes of the customer. Uh, um, as from a PM standpoint, so the SE should be technical, lockstep with the customer. He should a good SE versus a not good SE um, should be able to, a good SE should be able to um, figure out, first of all, be able to tell the customer how well um, how to utilize the product very well. The customers may not always know the features. A good SE should be able to know all of those intricacies and be able to tell that to the customer, because not everything is done the same way by different products. So the worker, there may be workarounds. The SE should be the one who should be able to communicate that to the customer. You can't do your step one. this the particular job in the way that you are doing. Here's a workaround. I know our competitor can do it in this way, but this is another way to do it. So with the workarounds and all of that, the SE should be aware of being able to do. And the SE actually has a big challenge, right? The SE is the generalist also in that sense. You're not always doing one feature or one protocol or one product. You should have a wider understanding of the overall product from a technical perspective, at least being able to demonstrate the features.
So
Um,
that brings me to another question. You just mentioned SEs. Some SEs are generalist SEs. Some are consultants where they focus on one or
yeah,
two products. But for
correct.
generalist SEs, how are they going to learn all the workarounds that are available for a product, or even all the features that are available for a product?
I don't think a generalist can do that. That's why I think there needs to be, um, um, organizationally, there need to be generalists as well as solution specialists or product specialists. So if you are going into an engagement, if it's your initial engagement and or maybe it's a later on, but you know that you're going to talk about the overall product, there should be a generalist and a solution specialist going, because yeah, so the sales guys have to know that this product, um, by talking to the customers, that this person is looking for an overall um, demonstration overall, or spanning across multiple areas, and his specific interest for the next quarter, for this particular sales cycle, or for this time, what's the focus, and be able to take this specialist. I don't think a generalist can do all of those. I mean, there's limitations, right? You can only your brain can only handle so much. It has to be There has to be a consultative solution specialist developed within the organization and be able to accompany on such calls. Maybe it doesn't always have to be physical, so it could be done remotely. But there needs to be a generalist and a social solution specialist, even in the SE role.
Most of the companies that I've talked to have that. So yeah, that was my point. So you interact with SEs. And to follow up on the question of what do you think a good SE is there a certain type of SE that you enjoy working with and a certain type of SE that you do not? Like you dread, oh, I'm getting an email from that SE.
I do. So I think um, one example would be an SE who takes it too far, putting himself in place of the customer, who goes on and actually harps on what is not available in the product, that this particular feature needs to be in the product, it's not there. For some reason there may be a delay in actually bringing that to developing it and actually getting it. There may be architecture hurdles, and that AC may actually know all of that and say that in front of the customer, getting very close to that. So I have interacted with some of those ACs, and always putting the customer first. I mean, putting the customer first is great, but you cannot do it at the cost of hurting your own company's image, or that. I think that's one example. So there were some SEs who used to do that, which I did not like. So that's one to stay away from. And what was your other question? Sorry.
Oh, that was
A
it. Like,
good SE.
yeah, good.
A good SE. Yes. I did enjoy working with SEs who were able to do those workarounds. Right. They happened to be very close um, um, to the customer. They knew exactly. They had a very good relationship with all of their customers, and they knew the workarounds. So software infrastructure, right? You know who I'm talking about. So actually the Cisco account teams, right? Your teams.
Yeah.
There were some really good SEs there who were actually the specialists, right? So for on software infrastructure, they actually happen to know so much more compared to the rest of the SEs. Those I really enjoyed with, because a lot of some of the actual good ideas also came from them. They knew the product so well. They were able to say, this feature is more important, that feature is not important, and actually help the PM prioritize, because they were so good at the user. They were great users who I really enjoyed working with.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and yes, the benefit to them is they've also been at the company for 10 to 15 years, and they've been in support.
Long time.
Yeah, and so they know the
Yes.
product inside out. So that definitely if that's a good career path for someone who is personable and able to talk, if he had a history in support or whatever to move on to sales engineering, that would be a
Yeah,
beneficial attribute to him. So I know you have a hard stop.
definitely. So, mhm.
Yeah, I know you have a hard stop in a few minutes, so I'm gonna move on to the not so fire round.
Yeah.
And it's basically I ask you a bunch of questions and you take your time answering, which is pretty much what we've been doing all along. So,
Okay.
other than a notebook and a pen, do you think there's another essential tool an SE should be using?
Hey, Ramzi, Ramzi, sorry, you broke up for me. Could you repeat the question?
Sure, yeah, no problem. Other than a notebook and a pen, is there another essential tool an SE should be using?
Other than a notebook and pen,
Yeah.
should a SE be using? Well, he needs to be. I'm not sure where your question is going. He should have his laptop so he can do at least two things: be able to present in absence of the seller being present to communicate ideas or roadmaps, and possibly also for and for demonstrations.
Okay. That's a good answer, and I usually leave it open for the guests to take it wherever direction they want to take it. So we're good.
Okay.
Is there any book or resource you think an SE should read or listen to?
Um, I I think there should be. Let me think about that a bit. Because I know that, I mean, I already made the distinction of what a seller should do versus a SE. But I guess so. I can still add on to that. Just what I would have said for a seller is presentation skills, and I think maybe I don't know if this is true or not. If you always go with a seller, but an SE should have some presentation skills. To them, in the absence of a seller, in the absence of a product manager being present for roadmaps or anything they may need to do, they should be also good presenters. So I particularly, there used to be a book from Harvard Business Review called Persuasive Presentations. It's on PowerPoint presentations. I would have just said more for the seller and less for the SE, but there may be times where he has to do that role as well. Is one thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, generally speaking, SEs do a little bit of presentations, especially in front of a POC or demo, or if the solution encompasses multiple products,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to it's one solution that has multiple products, and they want to bring it in together. So, yeah, presentation skills. It never hurts to have good presentation skills. You will use it at some point.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. So that, I think the presentation aspect of it, because I think the SEs are, from a technical perspective, and already knowing the product, that's a different thing. But that's not a book or anything to have. I think the place where it may help them more is on that aspect of presentations.
Yep. So, did you say the book is called Persuasive Presentations?
Yes.
Okay.
And I can ping you a link separately.
Yeah, sure. That would be good. I'll put it on the show notes, which will be on show 8. We the salesengineers.com/show 8. Okay. Do you have any tips or tricks for time management or task organizations?
Very very much easy. I read a book called Get It Done. I think it's from uh, forget something. Allen is the name of the author.
David Allen?
And Getting It Done
Yeah. By David Allen?
by David Allen. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I read that one.
One of the things that it had in there was take, break your inbox into three items. Ones that you have to do in the next 2 minutes. Once you can do this week, and once you can push off for the rest of for after the week. And then the takeaway for me for that was, as soon as I get an email, there is one aspect of it says that it's an interruption, and depending on your job, you may get a lot of emails. But I really used to use that. I got an email. I used to immediately take a look at it, do a quick glance of whether it's in one of those three buckets, and if I can do something in the next 2 minutes, I would just do it. And I found that to be very helpful because like half of those things, half of my inbox used to be like that. And if I pushed them off, basically I would lose track of it, and my to-do list would just grow so high. So definitely do that 2 minute thing even today. And then I classify them actually, I use Outlook a lot for my task management. When I get those emails or my meetings, I put them in exactly those two buckets. Monday morning when I walk in, I do that inventory. What do I need to achieve this week? um, and uh, and address them that way. So that's one, time management wise. And then as engineering management parent, I was doing a lot of Scrum. I manage my internal Scrum for my tasks across all my activities. So I use Trello for my own task management outside of the day-to-day email type of and meeting tasks, which I manage, just like I said before. I manage my own tasks in Trello as a Kanban board of things that I need to be working on. And I have my own classification for outbound marketing, inbound marketing, working with product management, working with partners. So I have like 4 or 5 big categories of things that I have in motion, and I maintain it as a Kanban board for my time management. So say, oh, this is what I need to be concentrating on.
So for the 2 minute task, if we step back for a second, the 2 minute tasks. So if you're doing if you're in the middle of something, do you stop what you're doing, look at your email, and do the 2 minute task, or do you bunch it up for some time in the day?
I do bunch it up, so I don't do it like every email, but I do have. So I love the Outlook reading pane, which gives you a preview. So I just, as soon as I get it, if I'm in, of course, if I'm in the middle of a presentation, I'm not going to stop, which I do a lot. Meaning I do deliver a lot of presentations, so I go off reader for that. But every day, every 30 minutes, every hour, I will definitely check and do that classification. And if I can do something immediately, I just do it at that break time.
All right, sounds good. Uh, Again, I want to give you your few minutes to prepare for your next meeting. I really appreciate your time. I have a lot more questions for you, but we'll leave that for another time, if that's okay.
No problem. I'm glad I was able to actually make it happen and get on your podcast.
I appreciate it. Let's have a competition. So Ralph Daniels, you're good colleagues with him. He had his podcast was a couple of shows ago. So let's have a competition who gets more listens between you and Ralph.
That would be good for me to know.
All right, sounds good. I appreciate your time and have a good day.
Thank you, Ramzi, and we'll be in touch. I'll ping you that link also.
Sounds good. Thanks, Harshad.
Right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you all for listening. I hope you found this conversation with Harshad educational. I enjoyed it. I always enjoyed talking to people from that are not part of the sales organization, but work with us. Get a lot of insight how that business works, how they make decisions about what features, what enhancements go into a product, and the business case behind it. Because if it's up to sales all cares only about selling. So it's good to see the business behind the business. So if you enjoyed this, please leave a rating or review wherever you listen to it. iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, all the above. I'd be appreciative if you did that. If you want to stay up to date, you can subscribe to the newsletter, which can be found at WeTheSalesEngineers.com and every show notes page that you might visit. That's it. That's all I have for you guys. Thanks again for spending your time listening to me talk and to Harshad. I know listening to my voice is weird, so I don't know if you guys find listening to somebody else's voice is weird. I don't think so, but hopefully your ears aren't bleeding after listening to this. On that positive note, this is Ramsey signing off.